to the BuiltOnAir podcast, the variety show for all things Airtable. Each episode, we cover 4 different segments. It's always fresh and different and lots of fun while you get the insider info on all things Airtable. Our hosts and guests are some of the most senior experts in the Airtable community. Join us live each week on our YouTube channel every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern and join our active community at BuiltOnAir.com/join. Before we begin, a word from our sponsor, OnToAir.com. Any business running on Airtable gets the value that Airtable has, but also needs a few more functions to complete their operations. That's where OnToAir comes in. It's a suite of tools for any business running on Airtable to maximize your operations efficiencies and automations. One customer, John, states that OnToAir enables his business to function properly without having to think about building their own software, and that is pretty invaluable. The OnToAir Airtable apps are amazing, and we use them often and are very happy with the results. So join John and hundreds more customers and take your Airtable to the next level with OnToAir. Sign up today with promo code BuiltOnAir for a 10% discount. Check them out at OnToAir.com. And now let's check out today's episode and see what we built on air. Welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast, season 12, episode 4. Good to be back with you live on YouTube. Grateful for all those who are joining us. We've got a fun episode for you today, jam-packed with lots of cool stuff. And we have with us Alli and myself, Dan, and Kamille should be joining shortly. And we are also joined by our special guest. You likely know her. She is so famous in the Airtable community. She only needs one name. Kuovonne, welcome. You're the Madonna of the Airtable world.
One name is hard enough to pronounce. You don't need to know two.
That's right. That's right. You only need one. You should know Kuovonne's name if you spend any time in any community. She contributes much to the community in answering lots of people's questions and great asset to the Airtable community. So glad to have you with us, Kuovonne. Excited to have you share some wisdom with us throughout the hour. So Kamille should be joining shortly. I imagine she's stuck in LA traffic, but she should be jumping in shortly, but we will get started. As always, the BuiltOnAir podcast is an hour-long episode. We go through 4 different segments. We always start with our Round the Bases, talking about what's going on in the Airtable communities. Then a quick spotlight on OnToAir, our primary sponsor. Then Kuovonne will go through formulas and share a couple examples of how to use formulas in your bases. Then Kamille will be showing how she built a application in Retool as a third-party tool that she'll be showcasing how to use. And then a quick shout out to our community. And then finally, Alli will be following up on a previous interface she showed and has added more functionality to it and is going to showcase that at the end. So with that, we will go through our Round the Bases. And this week, finally, we got the winners of the contest from Airtable on interfaces. And so for our Round the Bases, we're going to dive into some of those, not all of them, but we're going to show some of the winners and what they look like and kind of dissect them and comment on them. Before we do that, there was a couple feature announcements this week, so I wanted to go through those real quick. First one, I think I had seen this in a couple of my bases, but not all of them. I think it's still being rolled out. But Rebecca brought this up in the BuiltOnAir community that there's now a section in, and we've got Kamille joining. Welcome, Kamille.
Hello.
Good to have you with us. I'm going to get rid of our background so you can see us all. And so anyway, so now if you see down in here, this create an interface section. So this is new. It's basically a shortcut to just start a new interface off of your table. And I assume, actually, I haven't tried this. I assume it like pre-fills the table. Have anybody tried this yet? and create an interface from here?
I have not yet.
I have not seen that before.
Yeah, so this is now underneath the Create a View sidebar. And so these are kind of different types of interfaces that you can create. And so I'm assuming it'll pre-populate the table with the table that you're on and just kind of make it easier. So you kind of see now they're starting to blend, interfaces and the data layer. I think you'll see more of that going on in the future.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think it makes sense too. Lately, they've been adding a lot of shortcuts to different parts of their product sort of throughout. This is one I think that does make sense. I'm not sure if I like the implementation. So, because just looking at this screen, it depends on how big your screen is. Half the screen now in this, it's not a pop-up, I don't know what to call it, an accordion, I guess, is like all of your different options, and it's longer now because it's including the interface ones. I think I would have liked if it just said under new section, create an interface, you click that and it's maybe a pop-up or something, just so that it's not like, look how little space there is to look at the views in on Dan's screen.
So there, yeah, it did populate it. But yeah, you know what I thought was interesting is, yeah, so this is tiny up here. You can minimize just that.
You can.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that to ever be an option. You know what I mean?
It takes too many clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think right here, if you just click create interface and it made like a modal that popped up with those same options, I'd have been like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And even like create new, and there was like view interface and almost, because now they just took up even more of your sidebar real estate, even when it's minimized.
So this is just an extra reason why you want to control your permissions for all the different people using your bases, because of course those are only going to create an interface should only show it for someone that's a creator and not an editor. So a lot of these different things that we're seeing, if someone is just an editor on their base, their interface is not going to get cluttered up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, some new changes there. This was one that came out just after our last episode. In interfaces, now they support the Kanban element, so you can embed Kanbans in your interfaces.
Long awaited, but also not super excited about the implementation.
Why is that?
I mean, it seemed to not, at least when I tried to drag and drop it into an interface the other night, it doesn't dynamically shrink with how you've dragged the edges of the element. So like, it just doesn't look good on the page a lot of the time. And then still everybody complains, but I hate having the uncategorized section there and always open by default.
You know what? I was using a Kanban the other day, and I could have swore maybe it was a dream that they released an option to where you didn't have to display those. There's a toggle somewhere, and I was looking for it, and I was like, maybe this is still a beta that I dreamed about or something. So that never happened.
What you might be remembering is in grid views, if you're grouping by a single select field, you have a toggle to include select options that aren't attached to any record. So you can have like an empty group so that you could drag things into quickly. But I don't recall a similar thing for Kanban.
That's probably what I was remembering. Well, I'll keep dreaming then. Because, yeah, I wanted that this week. It was annoying me.
What would be really nice is a Kanban where you can say, okay, only show me this subset of options.
Yeah. You could couldn't you do that through a filter?
I mean, maybe.
No, but like we could say, only show me those of these categories.
Right. I think what Dan's saying, if the same functionality is there, where only show me options if a record, at least one record has that option selected. If you set a filter on the Kanban view to say has one of, done or like in progress, but not canceled, maybe it won't show you canceled because no records
fit
are
that
visible.
filter.
I don't know if that's the case. It'd be cool if it was.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Kanban coming. Is it a direct clone of the Kanban view, do you think, or is there any different functionality in the
Near as
interface?
I can tell, except for the coloring. Or no. That's someone else's mock-up. I think it is a one-to-one. So the first thing I commented in this thread is, would be great if you guys did some of the stuff people wanted in the other Kanban view. And then that's basically what everyone else is saying, just picking long requested Kanban enhancements and saying, since you're editing this code anyway, why don't you just slide in a couple new features? That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So after Kanban, so this was a post, I think it was a blog post, and then they referenced it in the community. Nothing new here, right? I guess I think there was some new stuff that hadn't been mentioned before. I know, Kuovonne, you commented on here. You want to give a summary of what they released?
Oh, well, a lot of it was repeats of stuff that, like the making it easier to sort and group things. But the new feature that I did note that I really liked is you can control click a table name and it will open that in a new tab. And I'm constantly like looking at a table and I want to look at another table. And I want it in a new tab so that I can easily see both at the same time. And control click will do that. And I hadn't seen that announced before. And then a lot of times, of course, I'll separate them out and put them in two different windows so I can see both at the same time.
Yeah, because sometimes I've always wanted to open up the same base in another tab, and you can't right click on stuff to open a new tab, because they override the right click. So you'd have to copy it and paste it in a new. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it'd be super cool. Also, even if you don't actually want that other table open, if you just want to have another tab of the same base so that you can say configure an automation or have the interface where you can see the data view and the interface or the automation configuration at the same time.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else notice anything?
I thought it was super nice that in the announcement they gave the shout out to the different community members who were asking for some of these things.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that means they're tracking it somewhere.
It means that they're hearing some of the people that speak.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Very cool. So some cool new little helpers to help you navigate and get around in Airtable. They also talked about the new navigation guides and stuff. Somebody pointed out, I think in this thread, that this thing right here it gets in the way for me. It gets frustrating, especially if you've got a full table where you've got records there. I was trying to edit the name field and it was right behind there. It's just annoying.
Yeah, I don't really like that it's larger than the add new record button. Yeah, I think some of this stuff I would like a toggle to turn it off once you're familiar with Airtable's sort of interface and how it's designed and how you build bases and the difference between each type of view. I don't want to be reminded anymore. So I just want to turn some of that stuff off.
Yep. All right, very good. Let's move on. Let's talk about some interfaces. And I see Russell Bishop joined us in the comments. I believe his name comes up right there. First place.
Yeah.
Well, congrats, Russell.
That's awesome.
For my wardrobe. So let's see. Cherry is a friend of the show. That's a different Rebecca. Chris, a friend of the show.
Joe.
Jeremy, active in the community. So some cool stuff in here. So congratulations to all the winners. I thought it'd be cool to show what some of the interfaces look like. I couldn't download all of them. Some of these links are broken. think this one might be broken. And then some in here, like the CRM one, that I think that link is broken. So I couldn't get all of them. I also didn't go through all of this list. I just kind of sampled some to put into a workspace that I thought we'd show off. So let's show some of these winners. I don't know. Have you guys gone through all of them or any of them?
I watched the video associated with the first 3 winners, and spoiler alert, this one, My Wardrobe by Russell, it's really cool.
Yeah. So he built, I don't know if he does this. He's a better dressed man than I am for sure. Even just thinking about this, my wardrobe would be pretty simple. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So he separates out upper body and lower body. You can navigate through all the different options. You can change out this. When you click on that button, he's got this animation going. So there's some kind of automation running in the background. And looks like it's taking a while. Maybe you're changing.
Is it?
You gotta save it.
So what I believe is happening, and hopefully I'm getting it right, Russell. So you can have a bunch of different items in your wardrobe, right? And if you have a outfit that you wear and you really like it, and you want to say, I don't want to have to think about coordinating my shoes with my belt with my shirt again, you can save an outfit that you've worn previously just for inspiration as you go forward. And what this page in the interface is to create a new outfit where you can look at each different part of an outfit, whether that's your shoes or your shirt or your pants. And it also has a function to let you layer. So if you're not in sunny California and you need to wear a sweater on top of your shirt or something, you could have multiple different tops associated with it. And what each button does is run an automation that finds a different random piece of clothing that fits that category, whether it's upper body, lower body, etc. And you keep randomizing, or you can select a specific one if you want by unlinking whatever's there and linking something else. Then clicking Save Outfit creates a new record that's linked to all of your selections here.
Yeah, and Russell points out there's no automation.
No automation. Then I have no idea what's happening.
Well, I think he's saying in his there is, but since I got this from the universe, the automations didn't get copied over.
Got it. Okay, never mind.
So that's why it's not working correctly.
Yeah. Or it could be that based on the type of automations, if this is in a free workspace, the number of automation runs that you actually still have available.
Yeah, and I may not have even turned on the automations because once you import it, you got to turn them on. So,
yeah. Well, the announcement post, not on the forums, but on
the blog post.
The blog post. I think it's For the Record. Off the Record is a show by Chris Dancy and Ben Grain. For the Record, I think, is Airtable's blog, and the blog post includes Russell's video demo of this working, as well as a couple other video demos, all of which are really cool. So
yeah, looks like he got into your sock drawer.
Hey, Dodgers, man, go blue. Yeah, this was really cool. I liked the different use cases. It's not something that I think I would have ever come up with in terms of a layout for something like this specifically. I just think it's really clean. And if you just showed me this and I didn't look at the top bar that said My Wardrobe / create outfit, yada, yada, that's to me a dead giveaway. It's an Airtable interface. But just looking from like upper body and below, I don't know if I would have been able to guess that, oh, this is an Airtable interface.
Right.
It's just, it's a layout I don't think I would have come up with. And it just looks so clean and cool.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone remember the movie Clueless?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what this reminds me of is, at the beginning of Clueless, where we've got the machine that goes and picks out outfits for Cher.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's like mismatch.
Yeah, so good stuff in here. Well done. There's some dashboards, a filter, so you can filter all of your clothing. So very cool. And adding new stuff, editing existing. So very cool. That is awesome that this is what he uses every day to get dressed. Let me go back. I want to make sure we can look through some of the others. Let's see. Any others? We won't have time for all of these, but let's do this one. I think this is cherries. Let's go in here. So this is for a law firm. So more of kind of a CRM type system. Got the groupings, which is nice. And just kind of basic input. You've got your intake form. I like this. Lots of questions. And then cases. And then let's see. Okay, so yeah, that's all of them. Isn't there another reporting? There we go. So nice reporting. I like combining grid views within the reports. Very cool. So nice, simple, clean dashboard. And let's go back out.
I like how she separated out the reporting from the workflow part.
Yeah, because when you share that, obviously if you have access to the base, you could get to either interface. But if you're, say, like, if you have a console set up or something that only looks at a particular URL, you can give them that URL to that separate interface. And so you're not bogged down with all the data entry bits in the first interface.
Yeah. Let's do this one. I think this one is kind of cool. So this is a real use case, mountain rescue help desk. So you've got live incidents going on, lots of use of emojis and ratings, people. This one I really like because this is a pretty small niche of rescue type organization. There likely isn't like a standard SaaS product that is tailored towards this industry, and they've been able to build something that probably is pretty invaluable to them in Airtable. It's a pretty cool use case. They've also got buttons, shortcuts. What else? Let's see. Performance. Yeah, pretty cool dashboard. What's going on? Nice. Very cool. Good stuff there. So we got to show Chris's. If you don't know Chris, he's the most connected man in the world, and this is the base that runs his life. Well, he's probably got a couple, but this is where he tracks his daily journal, and he's into astrology and everything going on here.
So one thing that I really, really like about how Chris put together is there's several different interface pages that you can see in there, but they're actually, you start with a simple journal and you put in, your reflections, what your thoughts of what the day was. And the idea is he's designed this first one to be really simple and it's not overwhelming with a lot of different fields and things like that. But after you get used to it, then you can switch over gradually to the other ones, where you can add in the emotional help or the physical and then keep on going there. And if you just started with the last one, there's so much information that you can be putting in that it's really easy to get overwhelmed. But he's just gradually introduced the user into, okay, let's just start by putting in, 2 things. And then now, after you've journaled for that for a few days, you're like, okay, let's add a couple more things, and then a couple other more things. So his pages are different from what you would see in like all the other user interfaces, where you might be using all the different pages, throughout your workflow of the day. This is more of a use this one until you're used to it, and then step up to the next most advanced one, and then step up to the more advanced one.
Yeah. This is awesome. Yeah, just the amount of work and effort into emojis everywhere, and you can tell there's a lot of work going into this. That's crazy.
Yeah. I think a lot of the work he actually put into this was actually stripping out a lot of the more personal things that he had in it.
Yeah, probably. I just looking at that brief glimpse at the data view, there's only like 5 tables. Mm-hmm. I think in his real one, which he's shown at the Airtable conference, next year, everyone should go. It was far more, filled to the brim. There was quite a few more tables and even more sort of data that could be logged. But, for the purposes of an interface and sort of your everyday day-to-day use, sort of tailoring it to be how much information can I put in here? What would still make for a good interface?
Did I get the office hours? I want to make sure we get all the top winners. Office hours, that might have been one that
maybe it was broken.
Maybe a broken link.
Yeah. So office hours. This one I thought was cool. It wasn't a winner, but it was some pretty cool dashboarding for sales analysis. So maybe we'll end on this one. Once it loads. Yeah, this is the one. So I don't know what they've got going on here, how this is built. Trying to think what this is.
Looks like are they?
If you edit, you should be able to see.
Yeah.
Let's look at it.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Could this be a text? You could do that with a text field, like a formula. I mean,
it was the churning that.
They're just fields. Yeah.
Fields.
Okay.
They're so little.
Yeah. How are they so little? How do they do that?
It's in the header.
Yeah. Okay.
It's in the header.
Yeah. I get so frustrated. I'm like, why do you let me make it that small up there, but not anywhere else? I'm like, don't let me have more control.
Now that you've mentioned it, Alli, I'm really wondering, one of the benefits of winning this particular contest is, of course, there's prize money. They'll probably send you some Airtable socks, but the one that was most interesting to me was they're going to sit down with the winners and ask, what is your, viewpoint on interfaces? What can be changed? What do you like? What can be improved upon? And I'm curious to see, based on just how cool what we've seen today from some of the winners, what they can build already, what were their suggestions, or what will be their suggestion for, what can be changed? Because just looking at what's on screen right now, this looks really good.
Yeah.
From a visual standpoint, I think Airtable thus far has done a good job of giving you a set of tools that you can build something that looks really good to display certain points of your data. It might be a usability thing, because dragging and dropping is still just a little bit frustrating, and you can't really get things the exact size that you want. You can't center things on screen unless you put a spacer element to the left and push it over, that kind of stuff. I'm curious to see what other people's, top improvements they want to see are.
Seriously.
Yeah, I like this one. I like
This looks really nice. This is really good.
Everything switches when you change it, and so it's interactive. It's pretty cool. Yeah, this was probably one of the better dashboard interfaces that I saw. So well done. This one didn't.
Yeah.
This one didn't place, but I thought it was well done.
I mean, I think the contest was a good thing. I think that there are certain things where it could have been managed a little bit better, especially with the timing of things and knowing when things would come out. Like, we were given a deadline, it was pushed back. They were saying, hey, well, this is when they will be announced. And then we ended up like the deadline went by and like no one knew. But I think that this contest was managed a lot better than some of the other contests that have been earlier on. There's two concerns that I do have, and this would both relate to my experience with the scripting contest. One is, just absolutely kudos for the communication on this one, that we didn't have the same kind of snafu's that happened with one of the first scripting contests. But the other thing that happened was a lot of the entries in some of the scripting contests, they just kind of like, there were links to them on the community forums, and then they kind of disappeared. And and then people would go back and be like, where'd they go? So I'm hoping that doesn't happen here. I'm hoping that we still get to see, a year from now, that there's still access to these so that people can go and look and get inspiration from them. Yeah. But I'd also like to see, again, like a year from now, have another contest when there's more people who are used to the features, new features have come out, and let's see what new things can be done to inspire people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole post from the scripting contest is totally gone. It's just like poof.
Yeah. Here's one more. I thought this one looked good visually. It's a home finder, home search manager. Kind of cool. They got like a calculator going on. I assume maybe there's some kind of automation in the background. So this was cool as well.
That is cool.
All right. So yeah, that's awesome stuff. Congratulations to everybody who won. Also everybody who submitted. It helps the community. I've already shared this with people that I work with in the consulting business that says, hey, this is essentially some ideas we can steal for our client work as well and implement new strategies and ways to build interfaces. So thank you to all who contributed and helped the community in that effort. So let's continue on. OntoAir is our primary sponsor. A quick shout out to OntoAir. If you are running your business and dependent on Airtable, you'll want to check out the suite of apps from OntoAir. And as you may know, we are launching a new standalone forms product, and we are officially live in a closed beta right now. Got to close out my Slack. So if you want to be a beta tester of our forms, we have a form you can fill out right here that was built with our form builder. And you can kind of see some of the cool functionality that we have and be able to build your forms and submit that. And then we will get you access to our beta, and love to get your feedback on it as we are working through some final issues before we release it live to the larger audience. So we'd love to get probably 10 more beta customers into our beta program. So please reach out, and we'll put this link in the show notes, or you can contact us through our chat or Slack, and feel free to reach out, and we'll get you access to it to test it out. So excited for that. All right, we will now dive into fields and formulas with Kuovonne. I will share your screen. Take it away, Kuovonne.
Okay, let me rearrange my screens a little bit. So the inspiration for this was actually from the community forums, where these are two use cases that I keep seeing over and over again. One is, say you've got a field where someone's got like their full name in there and you need to split it out into the individual names. And then the other one is going to be the reverse of that, where we have several different fields and we want to combine them together. But this is just general patterns. A lot of times, so you'll like when you bring in your data, say you're importing something, you want to have all the names split out individually, but you only have them listed with the full name. And sometimes things get a little bit tricky trying to do it. I've seen a lot of different formulas over the years. But it's tricky because you're trying to find like searching on spaces, or like what if there's multiple spaces, trying to figure out things like with punctuation. And some of those formulas can get really complicated. What I like doing this is these formulas here, where you can see here, this is just the example. So we've got the full name. We can find out if there's a middle name or there's a last name. Here it gets a little bit tricky. Say you have like multiple middle names and you're trying to figure out which ones. This is also why I think that people should use the formulas, but also go back and you like might have to manually clean some things. But just to take a look at this, these use regular expressions, and it uses a little bit of features that people might not be familiar with. So this is for the first name. You can say if there is a full name, we're going to do a regex extract from the first name, and then this is where the magic happens. So let me explain this. Here you see these little carets. They mean different things. So the first one, this little caret at the very, very beginning means find the very beginning of the text string. So at the very beginning of the line, and it's not going to match anything else. This says we're going to use a grouping where we're going to find not a space. So this means start at the very beginning of the text string, find a character that's not a space, and then the plus means repeat that until as long as you find another character that's not a space. So this is how we can to build it out. And so you can see the first name is basically going to be the first character, and then all the characters that aren't spaces, and that's when you stop. And so that's your first name. The last name is going to be built really similar to that, but it's going to say, first of all, you're only going to have a last name if there's actually a space. So here we're going to say, if there's a space in the full name, then we know that there's a last name. So we're going to take a regex extract from the full name. And this is going to work a little bit. This little $sign at the end here, this means look at the very end of the text string, and that's going to have to be at the end. And we're going to find a character sets that are not a space, and then one or more of them, and just keep on repeating that. So basically what this says is start at the end of the text, and then find all the characters that aren't spaces from the end this way. So that's how we get the last name, and that's how, like, it's blank if there is no last name in there. And then the middle is going to be a little bit of trick that combines the two of them. Let's see if we can see this. If I make my screen a little bigger, how does that work?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, let's make this bigger. I think I have to redo this.
Well, you're zoomed in at a 150. If you zoomed to maybe 125, maybe we can see a bit more.
Maybe we can see a bit more. Yeah, let's try it. Yeah, okay, so we're zoomed in a little bit, but now you can't see.
That's not bad. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Oops. There, okay. So the idea is we're going to do this. We're going to do our regular expressions. We're going to start with our first name, and then this part should look familiar from the previous one. It's start at the beginning, find one or more characters that are not spaces, and then we're going to replace that with an empty string, so with nothing. So basically take the first name, replace it with nothing. And then we have over here, which is the same pattern that we had to find our last name, which is we're going to have a character at the end, and then one or more characters that are not spaces at the end, and then replace them with nothing. So that should leave us with just what's in the middle name, and then we're going to have a space at the beginning and a space at the end. So that's what this trim over here is for, is it's going to go ahead and get rid of that space at the beginning and the end, so that we're left with just the middle name.
Very clever.
That's good.
Yeah,
so
I like that approach.
It's nice, and these characters are the keys of it. It's this character at the beginning that says start at the beginning, and then the one here that says these little anchors at the end. And just to let you know where they're documented. So these are, if you look at the formula field reference, I love how they have the support URL. It's actually support.airtable.com/formula field reference. It used to be like this long, complicated thing, but now it's easy to get to. And the regular expression ones are at the very end of the list here. And if you go into here, it says the RE2 regular expression library. That brings you over to here. This is the exact library that documents that says what it is, because there's several different flavors of regular expression. And if you scroll down over here, where it talks empty strings, this is where these are documented. So you can see here, that little caret says it's going to be the beginning of the string, and then the $sign is going to be at the end of the string. So those are, and then there's a lot of other things that are just like really complicated. And you can see there's a lot of things that aren't supported, but those two I find really useful. And that's how we can get all of them in that way. And I find it's just a lot cleaner than trying to do like the find the character where the space is, and then like the mid or other things that we had to do before regular expressions.
Yeah, I would agree. I hate doing find the character where the first space is, because you always have to do either +1 or -1 from there. And I always forget to do it. It's a nightmare doing formulas that way. This is really clever. And this is not, there's nothing I don't think you can do about it, but there's the difference between having two first names like Mary Kate Olsen and then having two last names that aren't hyphenated like Gabriel Marcia Marquez. I don't think there's a hyphen in his name. There's no way for the formula to know.
The formula can't know that. So, if you look at these two, if there's a hyphen, then the formula can figure out that that's the last name. But if it's not, it thinks this is a middle name. So if you're doing this to clean data, always, when it comes to human names, you just have to have someone with the human eyes to go and look at it. That's good.
Yeah.
But then let's take a look at the opposite. Is sometimes what you want to do is you have, sorry, wait a minute. This table is not what I wanted. This one is what I wanted. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sometimes you have text across several different fields and you want to combine them into one. So say we have several different locations. Well, normally what people would do, this is the beginner formula. You just say, okay, I want city concatenated with a comma and a space, concatenated with the state, combined with a comma and a space, and a country. But that doesn't work so well if your data doesn't support that. If your data, sometimes you're going to have a city, but no state, or sometimes you might have, a state, but no country, or some kind of combination of that. So you get like these extra commas that are laying around. You get the extra commas at the end of these things that looks kind of ugly. And I wanted to find a simple way of doing this. And one common way has been where you have it where you say if and the first name, but you always have to have that first one. But now using regular expressions, this part is probably going to look familiar. Some people do it. Let me go ahead and take out the regular expression part here. So this part here where we do a concatenate of each one of the individual places, and you say, for each of them, you say, if I have this thing, give this thing, and then a comma and a space. So if I have a city, give the city name and then a comma and a space. If I have a state, say the state, and then followed by a comma and a space, and so on. But the problem if you do just that, what if you don't have that, what if you didn't have a country? You'd end up with this comma and a space at the end. So what we do is we use this regular expression replace again that says, look at the end of the string, and then if my characters just before that are a comma and a space, so I have comma, space, and the end of the string, replace that with nothing. So that's how it works, where if I have just say a city and a state, I'm going to have this comma space at the end. And this replace gets rid of that at the end so that you don't have any trailing or dangling ones, no matter what actual things are included. So if there's nothing, there's no common spaces. If I have, only a city, I don't have that common space at the end of that. And I think it's a nice clean thing, because if you say you want to add another one, you just follow that same pattern. If whatever, and then the comma and space after that. So
nice.
So it's
very cool.
Trying to figure that those little anchors for the end of a regular expression, and the end of the text line at the end of the expression, and then the little caret one that we had that looks at the beginning. So regular expressions, they can be a little bit complicated. They're a little bit scary at first, but I find the best way to learn them is just start with little ones, simple wildcard characters, and then just gradually try playing around with one or two more of these, and then just gradually build up your regular expression vocabulary.
Yeah.
So Julian Post in our comments says Airtable's having another contest that's focused on formulas, and whichever is the best formula or the top 3 should be official functions. And I've seen some pretty wild formulas in my day. None of them are mine. But yeah, there's some things that you do over and over and over again. And some people have even made extensions that build formulas for you. Like Kuovonne. Kuovonne, you have a couple of those.
So, I mean, the one thing I think about formulas is they're another language. And as far as getting the power of formulas is being able to do something very, very specific for what you want that doesn't exist out of the box. The way I look at it is looking formulas is what I'd like to have eventually sometimes is having a formula writing course that teaches how to write formulas. The way there's all kinds of classes that say, learn JavaScript, learn Python, learn how to write in the language. Formulas are a language all of their own in Airtable formulas. And if we can get more people to learn how to write formulas, that's what I would like to see. As far as creating an official function, there's plenty of official functions I think that we would already like to have. I think split is one of the top ones.
Anything that has to do with arrays.
Arrays, please. That'd be amazing. And currency, to currency, that would be, or currency format, just any number formatting would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of options there.
Yeah. Number format, that would probably be what the top one that I would want. We've got date time format. Can we get number format?
Exactly.
Or like in Excel where you can create your own function and define your own function and write the code behind it to
That'd be cool.
That would be
That's
cool.
kind of what scripting does, but it takes automations to actually run it.
Right.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Awesome. Thank you, Kuovonne. And yeah, if you need more help with formulas, check out Kuovonne's extensions in the marketplace. You've got one dedicated to helping writing formulas, right?
So one is just ready-made formulas. It's just a few pre-packaged formulas, including one for formatting numbers. And then the other one is pre-filled forms for specifically pre-filling a form with field values.
All right, cool. Thank you, Kuovonne, for sharing that. And whenever you get time to write your book or your training course on formulas, I think people will be anxious for that. So, all right, let's move on. Kamille, if you're ready, we're going to go to you next and learn about Retool. You're just learning all of the third-party extensions and app builders.
I once again, I don't have the community post up, but is my screen sharing?
Not yet.
No.
Okay. I don't have the community post up, but somebody...
You shared it?
I've shared my screen, but not the post on the threads. Someone had seen my scheduling script that I made 10,000 years ago and was like, this is great, but I need to have it be public facing. And so that's sort of a limitation with Airtable's scripting extension, and that if your script is creating records or doing anything that sort of edits something to do with the base, you need to be an authenticated Airtable user for it to run. And even if you share a base and have the extension visible, I don't think you can run the script unless you're inside like the editing mode of Airtable. And so I was thinking to myself, what could you do if you wanted to do the exact same thing that, your these scripts are doing. I have 10,000 versions of them. But I went through and asked myself, could I build a public-facing version of Scheduler or any of these scheduling scripts I have? And the answer was yes. I played around with Retool, and
Kamille, your screen, you haven't shared your screen yet?
Oh, I thought I did. What?
Yeah, it's not.
I'm sorry. Now is it sharing?
There we go.
Okay. So before I was talking about all of these different scripts that I made, there's actually 4 of them. The 3 more common ones are here. Each one of them, what they do is if you have like a table full of assets or resources and you want to schedule them on a calendar without having them overlap any bookings, my scripts would allow you to select a room and then reserve it without overbooking. I wanted to do a public-facing version of that, and so I was able to rebuild it in Retool. And it wasn't easy, this version, because if you're familiar with the 10,000 scheduler things that I've made, one of them was called Scheduler. It looked like this. It had a calendar component to it. All Airtable extensions are built out of a JavaScript variant called React. In order to get that same exact calendar thingy into Retool, I kind of had to import a bunch of scripts in here to get it to work, but it does work the exact same way. So long story short, yes, you can rebuild some of the scripts that I had made and make them public facing, because Retool allows you to embed your projects into other websites, and you can also publish them separately to a dedicated URL. So the idea is someone, not me, I don't ever want to have to rewrite these scripts again. This is a proof of concept. So I wrote in my reply to that thread, no promises. But I have proven, at least to myself, that you could, if you so desired, go through and take my script and put it somewhere else and have it still work. So again, the idea is you select a resource. In this case, it's stylists. I'm booking a hair appointment or something like that. And then, this stylist has an appointment from 3 to 5. I can't select that time slot. Works exactly like it should. You'd click the schedule button once you have an appointment slot selected. That's represented here. Click schedule, and then it's done. I also did a similar sort of implementation using, a different layout, but it does sort of the same thing. It's looking for the dates that you've selected. It's looking at each of the resources and seeing if they have any appointments during that time. If it does, it just won't show up in this list. Something that I like about Retool, they have a few different components that aren't available by default in Airtable's extension environment. Of course, you can add your own components like I did with this calendar thing that didn't come with Airtable's extension environment. But Retool comes with a couple that are really nice out of the box, like the date range option. So this is looking at a start time and an end time field in Airtable, but it's all one component, which is nice. So you'd be able to select one or more of these resources and hit submit. Hopefully, if I do this, it will work. Let's see if it actually did. I'm going to pick something in this time range again, and then now only one of them is available. So behind the scenes, a new reservation was added to my Airtable base, which is why only one resource is showing up now, because the other 2 are reserved.
Very cool.
Very nice.
What's your experience with Retool? How do you compare it with? I know you've spent time in Glide.
This is much more you're on your own. If Glide is very like, oh, here's, I'll handle all the transitions from screen to screen for you. And a lot of things are sort of, the headache is taken out for you in Glide. And the same thing with like Adalo or Softer or other things like that. I talk mad smack about all of those because like your color scheme is limited and whether or not they let you put in custom CSS and all that. Retool is even more limited. Retool almost feels like they don't know if you want to build something that like looks good, so you really have very little control over the display of things. I couldn't figure out how to make the font size bigger, for instance.
Interesting.
I would like to make things look bigger. I don't know if I can. But that being said, if I go to their component library, they have a lot of components and all of them look very good and look very nice. And they run smoothly because these are pre-built components that they've tested 1,000 times. And then these ones at the bottom, custom component, HTML, and iframe, is where if you wanted to import a custom React component, you could. It's really hard. I learned what I learned in like a week. I'm sure if I sat down and had more time for it, I would have come up with a better implementation, but it was not easy and I don't want to do it again. So don't ask me.
So on that, to go back to the thread, the answer is it can be done.
It can be done. I'm not going to do it.
It's a lot of work, and the average person is not something that they're going to be able to.
Oh no, this is
get
one of those
something working in a reasonable time.
This is one of those things where you should hire a developer. Again, the developer is not me, but what I would probably do is I might make my own thread on the forums and just write up, lessons learned. Here's some things to keep in mind as you're transitioning a script from Airtable into Retool, because, in Airtable scripting extension, I'm using functions that only work in Airtable scripting environment, versus in Retool, everything is it's an API request. So you have to adjust your thinking for a lot of this and all that kind of stuff. So just be aware of certain things. But yeah, I'm done. No more.
Awesome.
So quick question.
Yeah.
Which still is your favorite tool for making a third-party portal?
I think it's still, my personal favorite is still Glide. I don't think Glide lets you do the most per se, but it's my favorite editor environment still. I think it's positioned just right to have a not frustrating, or at least not frustrating to me, editor interface. A lot of the field types in Glide in their own tables environment, or even if you're importing or syncing tables from Airtable and Google Sheets, you can add your own columns. And those column types are really cool. The other ones are fine. I just am annoyed easily. So
it sounds like the benefit of Retool is that it gives you so many more out-of-the-box components, but in exchange, it makes everything else harder.
Yeah, so I probably could have built this in Glide if I wanted to. The problem is this bit where it's searching through. I would have to run a script every time, you reselect dates, right, to filter out the ones that are overlapping. And I don't know what happened to my throat recently. I don't know if how to do that in Glide. I'm sure I probably can. I don't know how. I figured it out in Retool faster because it's a more dev-focused environment. Mm-hmm. I haven't the foggiest idea how to do this in Softer or Stacker.
Yeah.
Awesome. Or if it's possible, it might not be possible.
Yeah. It might not be possible, but it is possible in Retool, and you can embed a published Retool something, I don't know what they call it, interface or whatever, into another website.
Cool. I want to make sure we get time for Alli's segment. Yep. So thank you, Kamille. That's awesome. Learning about Retool. So finishing up, just quick shout out to BuiltOnAir. We hope you join our community. If you're not already in there, like-minded Airtable fans and users, join us at BuiltOnAir.com. And we are going to end. Alli is going to continue a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago on her interface and new functionality Go for it, Alli.
All right, excellent. So if you missed last week, I don't know why that's up there. All right. We went over a technique using syncing and having multiple data sources to get some more intricate and meaningful charts in interfaces. So that was really cool. I'm going to, for the purpose of time, skip over all of the how-to from last time. But I took everyone's advice and said, a lot of people had said, oh, you should try syncing that back into the source base, just so we have everything all in the same place. So I've done that, which is super cool. So I've got everything all in one interface now. But the other adjustment that I made, so originally I had just made the actual numbers and our target numbers, plus a % of target. And I had synced all of those into our other base over here. But the cool part about what you can do is you can sync fields, sync two columns from two different sources to the same field in the synced base. So that's what we're doing here. And I added a little bit of math to get these percentages here. So essentially, I've got how much do I have, how much percentage wise do I have left to get to my target or my goal for that month? And then how much am I over that goal? And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your use case. And then I have this little target. Basically, it's my % of the target. However, I'm cutting that off at 100%. And you'll see why when we make our chart. So I've synced over 3 different sources into this other base. I've got our target numbers and percentages, the actual numbers and percentages, and then the over numbers and percentages. And then that will allow us, and I'm syncing this all back via this view here into the source base. And I've got we did a segment on how to keep this all linked up together automatically. If anyone wants to check that out, it was a few weeks ago. But now when I go to do an interface, I just have this blank one started. If I pop in this chart here, I want to put that on my month reporting table. And I'm going to have the date be the x-axis just because I find that the most flexible. And then here's the cool part. If I aggregate by not the number, but let's do %, not average, but sum. And then I'm going to group by that sync source. And so now this kind of gives me like a progress bar month by month, how far along I am to my goal. And I don't have anything over the goal here, so I'm just going to add one really quickly by going into my opportunities. And let's just say, actually, where are we with, let's just put April up. April's going to get a bunch more. And now you'll see the only downside to doing this like double syncing is that now I have to go into my other base, sync this. And, you know, if you're not looking for real-time data, then this shouldn't be an issue. But I've got everything syncing up. And then do we have over goal? Sync it one more time. And hopefully I'll be able to show something pretty cool. Let's go. Sometimes I've actually noticed with having these 3 data sources, and I haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but I have seen them like out of sync. Like it'll sync once for just 2 of them, and then it'll sync later on for the 3rd, which seems very odd to me. Okay, come on. Sorry, for the purpose of the time here, I'm going to fly along. Do this. Right, I should have, I'm 100% over. I sync that. There we go. but it only did it for April. This is where I'm getting like, we'll come back to that at a later date. It seems to be a weird sync issue. Like if I synced it again, then it'll grab January, maybe. No. All right. But anyways, so the syncing is a little finicky sometimes, but the end result is worth it. I promise. So here I've got finally April is over the goal, but that's not really how I want it, right? I want the dark green to be on top to show, hey, you went over. I want everything else to be lined up. And that's the cool part is this is as simple as grabbing this, and you can actually just drag that right up. And then if I go back, now that's at the top.
Cool.
So the stacked order is in the same order as that single select.
Very nice.
That's
Sorry
awesome.
for the little hiccup there. I don't know I'll try and dig into more about that weird syncing issue and figure out what's happening there.
Could be a bug. Found for
Seems like
That's
one
cool. Yeah, and this is you'll definitely want to go back and watch the previous episode and see all the that was like mind blowing that episode. So definitely worth checking out.
I have never ever understood stacked bar charts in the context of Airtable, and I very much like your implementation.
Thank you. With a little more time, I probably would have drilled in more about the how-to. But if anyone, last week or 2 weeks ago.
That's very cool. I keep finding that the sort order of single selects keeps popping up and like being useful in surprisingly new ways. Where it's like that's really cool.
I am glad that Airtable respects the sort order that you put in for single selects, and it gives you the option to alphabetize if you want. But things like in progress, to do, done, or whatever, you want that in a non-alphabetical order, and then having it carry through and basically everywhere is very nice.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I think that's one of the number of reasons why I hate lookup fields less.
Yeah. Yeah, just for single selects, basically.
Single selects and collaborator fields or user fields.
And link record. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming on. Thank you, Kuovonne, for demonstrating and sharing your wisdom with us. Always good to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you much for having me.
And we will see everybody next week on Built on Air. Take care. Thank you for joining today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our sponsor, ontoair.com, and we will see you next time on the Built on Air podcast.